want to take a step back and sort of point out we've kind of been here before. So August 13th, how far were the polls off in Michigan, Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin? And this is in 2016 and 2020. Trump was estimated both times around and by significant margins. Take a look here. In 2016, the average poll in those states that I mentioned, those Great Lake battleground states, Trump was underestimated by 9 points on average at this point in 2016. How about 2020? It wasn't a one-off. Look at this. He was underestimated by 5 points on average. And, of course, Kamala Harris's advantage in those New York Times Siena College polls were 4 points in each of these key battleground states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. The bottom line is this. If you have any idea, if you're a Kamala Harris fan and you want to rip open the champagne bottle, pop that cork, do not do it. Donald Trump is very much in this race. If we have a polling shift like we've seen in prior years from now until the final result, Donald Trump would actually win. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I am saying that he is very much in this ballgame based upon.
But I assure you that Donald Trump is doing better among the average union member, not teachers' unions and not the unions for government, but everybody else, the trades, the people who work with their hands. He's doing better among them than any Republican has done in decades. This is not going to be a problem for him. The union leadership is more divided from their membership, and the louder that it gets, the greater the divides are going to come. And in my focus groups, and this is remarkable to me, the union membership says they don't speak for me. And I've been doing this now since I hate to say this, 89, 1990. I've never had union people publicly say they don't speak for me.
So Kamala Harris came out, there's a poll coming out that she's ahead in the polls. She finally leads in the economy on one of the polls. And I don't know if I think people are being too dramatic about all this. Like, I think a candidate that's surging in the polls that hasn't got really any tough questions, hasn't really have a policy position. And I'm hearing all this noise. Nikki Haley had a Fox News interview where she's kind of criticizing how the approach that Donald Trump is taking.
Republicans should not be surprised that we are now running against Kamala Harris. It was her all the time. There was no way Joe Biden, in the condition that we saw him, could take on the stresses of a presidential election. So, that was something I believed in then. It's why I constantly referred back to her, because I knew that Kamala Harris was the person that we had. And look, what I'll say is it's not an issue of whether I go out and campaign for Donald Trump. He's decided the way he wants to do this. What I will tell you is the Republican Party needs to make a serious shift here. And the first thing is the Republican Party, Donald Trump, people here at Fox, quit complaining that she's not giving an interview. You don't need an interview from Kamala Harris. I take her at her word. I take her at her word that she wants to raise taxes for households over $100,000, that she wants to add a pharmaceutical tax and a health care tax. I take her at her word that she thinks that illegal immigrants should be able to vote and be given driver's licenses. I take her at her word that she wants to ban fracking and kill a bunch of U.S. jobs. Take her at her word.
Despite the fact that the campaign has pushed back and put out statements and saying that her positions have changed.
She has said this. Now, what Donald Trump needs to do is go out there and campaign every single day, telling the American people exactly what Kamala Harris has said. We are 80-plus days out. We need him to win. But you got to go out and do the work. And the one thing Republicans have to stop doing, quit whining about her. We knew it was going to be her. She's not going to give an interview. They're going to hold out as long as they can. That's their right. They can do it. That doesn't mean we can't talk about what she believes in, and we should be getting out there and doing that.
So as you can see, Nikki Haley's out here criticizing. Greg Foreman says that Nikki Haley is talking a big game, but for somebody sitting on the sidelines, not making the argument she claims everyone needs to make to help Trump win. To me, it's just I don't know. I don't take Nikki Haley really seriously right now. Kamala isn't winning voters because she's bringing them hope. She's rising in the polls because the media is propping her up. This isn't complicated. This is the clip. I'll play it for 17 seconds.
Don't assume people are going to bend a knee. That is not that 20%. Their ideas are still out. What they like about Kamala is that she's being hopeful. She's talking about freedom. She's talking about a way forward. They don't want a former president talking about the past.
But if you don't know your past, then how can you know your future, right? The past is what leads up into the future, right? You pointing out, hey, look, America, you made this past decision. You decided to vote Biden. You went Biden. Look what that has gotten you. And the past there's two ways I think I could look at this. Donald Trump could say, don't you want to go back to a time when inflation rate was 1.4%? Don't you want to go to the time when unemployment was on the 3%, 2019, Donald Trump's economy? Don't you want to go back to the time where you could comfortably afford groceries again? Right? So in a way, I agree with Greg Foreman's synopsis about Nikki Haley. She's talking a big game for someone on the sidelines, but she's not even making the arguments that she claims that Donald Trump should be trying to make. Right? When Vivek criticizes the Republican Party, as you saw when he was schooling the Breakfast Club, he articulated properly what he think the Republicans should focus on. You should focus on the vision. We should be like this. We should be talking about policy. Right? She's not even doing that. And you already know my argument. I don't like all this emotional appeal that's been going on in our politics. I think that when people vote emotionally, they vote irrationally, they make bad decisions. When you go buy a car, when you go out and grocery shop, when you go out and you're buying something for the house, you can't fall on emotional decision making, because emotional decision making can get you in some deep-ish. And I don't think that's not the time we need in politics. I think the American voter is smart enough to sit back and hear arguments where someone's casting, hey, look, this is what's going to happen if you vote for Kamala. Look at the economy that you're going to get. How can you trust someone? How can you vote for somebody where you don't even know where they actually stand on the issues? She won't even take a press conference. And it's not like they're crying or whining about it. And that's why I hate sometimes about Nikki Haley. She always trying to cast people like it's her. Like, I don't know, it's projection from her part. I don't know what it is. But she's like, oh, don't cry, don't whine about Kamala Harris not taking an interview. No, they're pointing out the fact that, hey, one side, us, is willing to have interviews no matter the media, and the other side doesn't want to take interviews because they don't believe that you should be able to question them. All you should be able to do is hear their basket of goods. Oh, let's sell hope, but you ain't selling solutions. That's the problem that I have as a voter. I'm speaking for myself here. As a voter, that's what I have a problem with our politics. I wanted the way that Vivek has pointed out. I wanted to be about policy, not hope. So I think Nikki Haley's giving bad advice, but I digress. So we want to check out this clip where allegedly Kamala Harris is surging in the polls. I'll take them at their word. And I want to highlight how I'm hearing mixed messaging about the working class whites, because as you saw from the intro, Frank Luntz says, hey, union leaders don't speak for us. Like union members are saying this. So I don't know what these pollings are, where they're getting these pollings from. I don't know what's going on, but to me, polls don't mean nothing no more. It's just a center of conversation. All right, that's what I take. That's what I'm taking from this. But I digress. Let's get into the video.
That comes as Kamala Harris is making gains in key swing states with a surprising and crucial voting group. And Harry Annan is here with me to go beyond the numbers. So Harry, we know obviously you look at the overall polls, you see these swing state polls, the ones over the weekend from Siena did stand out. We'll see if that's really where this goes. But you found something very interesting in terms of one group that stands out.
White working class voters, white voters without a college degree. That is Donald Trump's core group. That was the reason why he was able to break down that giant blue wall, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, in the Great Lakes. And look at their support now versus where we were a few months ago when the matchup was between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Look, Donald Trump still leads, but look at that margin. It has shrunk significantly. It was 25 points back in May. It is now 14 points now here in August.
I think the only polls you really can trust now that I'm looking at it, that this is from the New York Times, Siena College, yeah, whatever, I said it right. I think we should only trust aggregates, right? So if we have an aggregate of polls, different polls, polling the same voters, then I can believe it. But if it's just one specific poll, that's my problem. Like, it's like if I quote a Rasmussen poll, people are going to be like, yo, that poll is always having a favorability towards Trump, right? So I don't know what to make of it anymore. I just think these are just used to have discussions and drum up headlines, and I think that's all it really is. That's why I say, well, just focus on the policy. Don't, because this is what politics has become now. This is what happened when you let emotionalism take over politics. It becomes a popularity contest. People be like, oh, I want to vote along to get along. Oh, it's not popular to support Donald Trump because I'm a white working man. Like, this is how they psyop people into supporting Kamala Harris, right? A candidate doesn't even have a policy position on her website, not a single one. She gave a policy proposal and it's a kind of a plagiarized stance that was taken from Donald Trump, and she added minimum wage. But minimum wage, if you do, anyone who do any kind of research on economics knows that minimum wage causes more negatives than positives. When you artificially raise someone's value in the market because the government said so, you undercut all the costs. You ignore all the costs. The person's going to lose their job because, end of the day, a percentage of something is better than 100% of nothing. Right? And this is something that minimum wage people don't seem to understand. You can't pay a janitor $50 an hour unless his value is worth $50 an hour.
Sliced by half. Those numbers that Harris is putting up amongst that group right now are actually slightly better than Joe Biden did 4 years ago amongst those voters in those key states. Those are the types of numbers that Kamala Harris needs to put up in order to win. And of course, Joe Biden was like, I don't want to drop out of the race because I'm not sure that Kamala Harris can break in with this group, but it turns out she absolutely can.
Which is fascinating because originally when they started, right, it was an immediate map expansion. They started looking at Georgia, North Carolina even, not giving up, but it seemed like sort of accepting that conventional wisdom. And now it's fascinating that may not be the case. So also the economy. When we look at that, we just were talking about that. That's an issue Trump has been extremely strong on. Is that changing?
It is. I mean, again, look, we're still looking at Trump having a clear advantage amongst white working class voters in, the Great Lake battleground states. But again, the margin is shrinking, and elections are all about margins. You see it shrinking. He had a 36-point advantage in May. It's now down to 24 points here in August. These are the types of numbers that Kamala Harris needs to put up. And more than that, it's about the economy. This is also a change election, and it's also about change as well. And she's breaking through among white working class voters on the issue of change. So the economy and change working for her cohesively.
You're talking about Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. There, obviously, those are crucial. That's that blue wall. But when you look more broadly, does this tip the scale as you look at other crucial must-win states?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Non-college whites are a key group across the board. They are a plurality of voters in the electorate when you compare them with college-educated whites or if you compare them with African Americans and Hispanics, and especially in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Look at that. They're the majority of voters. The fact that Harris is closing in on Trump with them is the big reason why she has those advantages she has now in those New York Times Siena College
Absolutely
polls
fascinating,
there.
and not what probably anybody expected, certainly from what Joe Biden was saying.
I mean, from all the media press she gets, I think Tim Walz is actually helping with that as well, right? With the blue class appeal, I guess. But I have something. So here's the Trump war room, right? I think this is going to be like there's kind of rebuttal for it. A Tyson plant in Perry, Iowa, is the town's largest employer, currently employing 60% of the town. The plant closed because of Kamala's inflation crisis. Kamala is killing the American dream. President Trump will end Kamala's slaughter of the American town and suburbs, right? So let's take a look at this, because this goes counter to, if it's really the white working class that they're speaking about, then this issue is something that I think the white working class will be afraid of.
CBS's Dave Malkoff reports from the factory community of Perry, Iowa, which is struggling to find jobs after one of its major plants shuts down.
So how many years at the factory for you?
It was just under 14.
Joe Swanson is no longer working in the town he loves, where his kids go to school. That's because Perry, Iowa's largest employer, this Tyson pork plant, just shut down.
None of us picked this, and I just want everybody to be okay. Because I know how hard this is going to be for a lot of people.
You see, that's real pain right there. And what I'm talking about is, like, I don't believe the polls, because look at the results. Like, end of the day, the media, this is why I think it's media hype that's driving her rise in the polls, because the media is running with all these numbers. Oh my gosh, she's doing so great with these people. She's making inroads with the non-working, the non-college educated whites. She's making inroads in swing states. She's ahead of Trump in the economy. Has Kamala ever answered any tough questions about the economy? Has Kamala even outlined anything that she's going to do differently with the economy? Does she say she disagree with the direction that Biden is taking the country in the economy? Oh no, she hasn't been taking any questions from the media. Day 25. So this is the current result. This is the current lead that Kamala has without being asked any tough questions, without being questioning the media, without having something that's not a rally. Sorry. This is her numbers right now. So my question is, and I think this is why Donald Trump and JD Vance are bringing up the fact that she's not taking an interview, is to warn the American voters, hey, you might be. This is a Trojan horse candidate. You might be voting for something that sounds good. Yes, we're selling hope, but she's not telling you how she's going to achieve hope. It's the same thing that happened with Obama. 2008, my dad voted for Obama, and then after 4 years, my dad told me, he looked at me and said, hey, never vote for someone just because of their skin color. And I took that itch to heart. You know, I guess they raised Florida dads different out here. I don't know. He told me, hey, don't let no one tell you should vote for a candidate because of your skin color. I don't know if he was like telling me something that he should advice that he should have taken 2008, because my dad didn't vote for Obama in 2012. He voted for Mitt Romney because of the fact that, oh yeah, the Democrats are all talk. That's why my dad raised me. Democrats are all talk. They'll say hope and change, but everything stays the same. Shout out to my dad. So this is Kamala. Kamala's doing that all over again. She's telling you what you want to hear, but then you're not asking the questions. Americans are not getting the question of how you're going to achieve that. How are you going to make my life better? And the only approach that she has, no tax on tips, even though you made a vote for a policy that went after people with tips. Make it make sense. But now her and the Biden administration are making a 180 on it, and they're attempting to implement this strategy now. They're looking to implement no tax on tips. America, you can't reward this, right? I don't know why. I have a feeling that if she gets interviews from the media, if she takes questions from the media, I don't think her poll numbers will be as high as it is right now. I think this is peak for her. I think this is her peaking. And I think that Donald Trump and JD Vance need to stay the course and continue attacking Kamala Harris the way they've been doing it. Because I think it's effective. Donald Trump going on podcasts, Donald Trump going out and reaching out to the younger voters, right? To kind of fill out the base. Because they're focused on outreach. Did Nikki Haley not see the X space that Donald Trump and Elon Musk did? Apparently it hit 1 billion views on X. So I don't understand where not Kamala Harris, where Nikki Haley's getting this idea that they're not reaching out to voters, they're not expanding the base. It tells you that Nikki Haley's not really paying attention. This is my argument. But let's continue with the CBS News.
If it's this hard for Joe, think of the nearly 1,300 other employees, most of them living in but no longer working in this city.
If you're going to find a new path forward, sometimes it's not here.
Yeah, absolutely. You have the power. Make sure that you find the right opportunity that's going to benefit you and your family.
The reality in Perry is that the right opportunities left a long time ago. The meat process.
Manufacturing is leading jobs, right? This is one of Donald Trump's core policies in his agenda, Agenda 47. Make America a manufacturing power. That means bringing more job opportunities for rural America, right? Because these Democrats, like in my comment section, they love to bring out, oh, the poverty rate is higher in red states, red rural states. And I'm like, that's not a policy problem. That's an economic problem. Because of the fact that blue cities, right? They take up most of the jobs. Most of the opportunities are in cities, not in rural America. It's not policy, right? It just happenstance. It just so happened that Democrats run those cities. So it's not because of Democrat policies that they have lower poverty rates than rural cities. It's because there's less job opportunities in rural cities compared to cities.
Plants not modern enough for the company. Upgrades would simply cost too much. Rachel Wacker runs the County Development Alliance.
Maybe we were hoping for a miracle at first where we can just turn off the lights on June 28th and turn them back on with a new user, and that's simply not the case.
And they're not alone. This is one of those one factory town stories. 25% of the people in Perry who are old enough to work in the pork factory do work in the pork factory. If you add in their family.
Imagine that, a town relying on one employer to supply 60% of their jobs. I think they're missing a lot more of these working class whites than they actually are getting them on a poll. This is why I don't believe polls anymore. Polls are just there as a means of discussion. That's it. I mean, let's go into Mr. Wonderful is going to attempt to attack Harris, trying to rewrite her liberal track record, right? Because the media is out here. Look, this is all fluff. This is all hype. I honestly believe that. The poll numbers show how effective the media is into swaying public opinion. And they all got to be on code. I showed you with the Elon Musk, a wall of negative coverage, negative headlines. Like, it's like a script. Like, it's so obvious now that the media is biased against Trump and biased for Harris. It's so baffling. And the Harris supporters can't even articulate what exactly they just support her, like her policies, what she's going to do. And Nikki Haley, the likes on the sidelines, Nikki Haley on the sidelines, is criticizing Donald Trump about his approach on his line of attack, when she's not noticing that the entire media apparatus is literally creating a bubble around Kamala Harris. And the only reason they're now starting to ask her questions is because they fear that this stuff is landing. And I believe a lot of these polls, they're lagging indicators. They only tell us the results from the past, but they're not telling us the trends in the future. And I think that is still up for grabs. And I still think it's too soon to be worrying about Kamala's surge in the polls. She just started running a month ago. It's only been 25 days since she's been running for president of the United States. So this is still fresh. So I think Trump and JD Vance still have enough time to pivot. And I think what they're doing right now is effective. And I would encourage them to continue pressing on, because the contrast is obvious. Kamala's not one scared to take questions, one scared not to take questions. I believe as a voter, I'd rather pick the person that I know their policies versus picking someone I don't know their policies. I think that contrast is pretty important for many voters. Let me know in the comment section if you agree.
60% of Americans are invested in the market, whether it's a pension, a 401k, and yet the Democrat VP nominee, Tim Walz, has zero money in investments. What do you make of someone trying to run the country with zero investment acumen?
I didn't know anything about the VP candidate, Tim, and so I did some digging last week. I got the data last Friday. He is not a good manager. If you look at his stewardship of his state, Minnesota, it's been not good. And I'll tell you how I measure it. People say, oh, you're partisan. No, I'm not. I'm looking at the track record of an individual who came into a state and wiped out job creation. He wiped out job creation in professional, in manufacturing, in accounting, in every subcategory you look at, those jobs.
And this is what the white working class is supposed to vote for the Kamala. This is why I don't believe the polls. I don't think working whites need to do any research, because they're experiencing it right now. Damn, I'm relying on one job. If this employer leaves, I don't know how I'm going to feed my family. And you're going to put in a Minnesota governor guy, who has a track record of losing jobs, right? He governs a rural area, and look what's going on there. Destruction, right? He allowed BLM to riot in the streets, destroy property. Remember, the largest amount of property damage was done by BLM. This guy has never had a private sector job in his life. Him and Kamala. JD Vance, he used to work for somebody. Donald Trump, he's an employer, so he has active experience in stocks, bonds, and real estate. But Kamala and him, nope, they just only served in the public sector. They only served in a federal capacity. So that means they can't relate to recessions, hard times, inflation, because I said Congress, they can vote in, boom, they get a raise. Even though they're doing a terrible job, but they can vote themselves a raise. And you think these kind of people will have firsthand knowledge and detailed knowledge on exactly how to approach the economy to bring manufacturing back to a rural state like Iowa, like Perry, Iowa? You think these people have a track record or approach or the strategy to bring opportunities back into these small towns? And I think the opportunity zones is a great way to bring manufacturing back to the United States. But I don't know their policy. But if somehow they're better on their economy than Donald Trump. Make it make sense, guys. I digress.
Moved to South Dakota and North Dakota. The South Dakota job rate right now is 4 times that of Minnesota. Minnesota only creates jobs in services that are funded by the government, healthcare and social services. Every other sector is in decline. He's also added a surcharge of 1%, 100 basis points, on top of 9.8% taxes on individuals that are retiring. And of course they're leaving the state in droves. He's the best governor for Texas, for Florida, for North and South Dakota, but not for Minnesota.
And that's exactly right. That's where they all went, Kevin.
Exactly. People are like fleeing these blue states. And he's one of the governors that people are fleeing from. And you want to put him in vice president of the United States. This is why I said the surge in the polls are fake, man. I don't believe it. But hey, what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you guys watching to the end of the video. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.